Hello students, welcome to the Toro Fieldwork Expectations video. You are being assigned this video by your professor, most likely because you are about to go out into the field to do some observations at a local school site. So we're going to talk about some things you need to know as you go out into the field to do these hours. All right, first thing, making contact. It's important to remember that these people are very busy, so email is the best way to start. You want to email your site administrator. Please introduce yourself with a full name, your first and last. Do not assume that they know who you are. Tell them that you are a Dominguez Hills student. Drop your professor's name or the person who did your placement so they are reminded who's contacting them and why. You want to always be kind and thankful of the opportunity to go to their site. I want you to explain what you need to accomplish during your fieldwork in this email, and I'll show you an example of that in a moment. They need to know exactly how many hours you're going to do. Do you have a project to do? Do you have to teach a lesson? Do you need to interview someone? Are you doing research? What are you trying to accomplish? And they need to know that up front. The next thing, whether you hear back from them or not, you're going to call to set up your schedule. You want to remind them that you emailed them about this fieldwork. Tell the administrator the days and times you're going to be coming. And then always call back or visit. If you don't hear anything, just show up with all of your paperwork and your letter and explain what's going on and what you need to get done, and most likely they will help you out. Just remember that they're very busy and sometimes they need reminders. They're not going to necessarily remember that you emailed them, okay? So speaking of email, here is an example of what you would write in an email. So I'm going to leave this up here and go through it, and you feel free to pause and copy this down, take a picture of it, and use this kind of language. You don't have to write the exact same thing, but I suggest you use something similar in your first contact with that principal. You want to introduce yourself with a full name, like I said. Tell them what class you're in, whether you're in liberal studies, math, English, PE, whatever it is. Tell them you're from Dominguez Hills. They probably get calls from other colleges, so you want to make sure you point that out. Tell them who gave you this placement. It might be me, Angela Macias. It might also be Dr. Inman. Whoever it was, put their name in there so they are reminded. Most likely they've had conversations with this person recently, so that will help them remember who you are. You want to thank them, of course, for this opportunity, and you want to point out that you're looking forward to working with experienced teachers. Occasionally, principals view this as an opportunity to get some extra help in their classrooms, but we want you to learn from experienced teachers, so point that out. We don't want you in there with a brand new teacher who's still figuring things out. You want to point out when your schedule allows you to come, so I just put an example of that. If you're going to come 1 day a week, 2 days a week, what times do you plan on being there? Make sure they know that. And then also let them know what you need to finish, how many hours and what kind of work do you plan on doing. They want to know if you're planning on helping, or are you planning on just observing, or do you have to teach? Do you have to have some kind of project you get done? We don't want them to confuse you with student teachers, because that will mean that they are expecting you to be a full-time person and you are not. You are just doing observations and field work. So make that clear. You also want to ask which teacher they would like you to work with. Make sure that that is decided. Let them know that you want them to pick out someone that you can learn a lot from. And then give them your contact information. I gave an example, and this isn't a real person, obviously, but you put your phone number and email that they can contact you at. Okay, the next thing, when you visit the school sites, a few things to remember. First, dress appropriately. 2, introduce yourself with a full name and your school. I'm Angela Macias. I'm from Cal State Dominguez Hills. You want to be clear on who you are, your whole name, and where you're coming from. Bring your paperwork, and then, of course, follow the school rules and expectations as if you worked there. You don't work there yet, but you're doing field work because you want to go into this type of a job. So you want to make sure that you are following all of their rules. So when visiting your school site, first, we already mentioned this, dress appropriately. I know it seems silly that we have to talk about this, but we want to make sure that you're representing yourself well for your future career's sake, as well as representing Dominguez Hills well. So here are some examples of what not to wear. These ladies are very cute, but they are not appropriate for visiting a school site. So don't wear jerseys, don't wear jeans with holes in them. I would suggest, since some schools require you to do a lot of walking, you don't even go with some big high heels. This young lady in the middle looks very comfy, but she is not appropriate to be going to a work setting. This third young lady also looks very cute, but not appropriate for a school setting. The skirt is too short. Try to be a little more modest when you're visiting school campuses. Okay, we did not skip the gentleman. Guys, you need to follow the same ideas, right? Same rules. No jerseys. We're not going to wear sweatpants. We're not going to wear anything silly. No jokes on your shirts. No funny animals or cute phrases. I would suggest not even wearing anything that has large logos on it. It helps out if you just try to dress a little more modest and serious, because you don't know what the school rules are at that site. Not to mention, jokes are fun for you and your friends, but kids don't always get it, and it's distracting. You don't want to be a distraction. You want to be a support and a help in that classroom. So here's some examples of what you could be wearing. You might notice that the school is very professional, really dressed up, like this third young lady here. If that's the case, then you want to dress similar to them. Okay, if you notice people are wearing jeans and tennies, that's fine, but just do it in a modest manner as these first two are doing, okay? Same for gentlemen. Keep it low-key, nothing silly, no big logos, jokes, photos, or strange things on your shirt, no jerseys, no holes in the jeans. But notice you don't have to be super dressed up. You can still wear jeans, but keep it low-key and semi-professional, okay? Introduce yourself. You always want to introduce yourself professionally with the first person you meet, with your teacher, with your administrator, whoever you come in contact with. And here's what this looks like. When you come in, you're going to introduce yourself with your name and tell them that you're a Cal State Dominguez Hills student. Tell them that you spoke with the principal. And then tell them that you'll be completing your field work in one of the classes. If you already know the teacher's name, state that teacher's name. You're going to cut out a lot of the legwork that this secretary or clerk might have to do to figure out who you are and why you're there. Don't assume that they already know that. Next thing to remember is bring your paperwork. I had a lot of students contacting me telling me they needed copies of their clearance and their TB test, and you should always have the originals of these sorts of things. You give other people copies. You keep the original for yourself, and I would highly suggest that you just get a folder for your fieldwork and keep all those copies in there. Keep a copy of your notes, any records you need to keep of your visit, signatures, times, all that kind of stuff. Keep it in one folder and take it with you every time so you always have it. And we mentioned this before, but you're going to follow all the school rules and expectations while you're there. And even though you don't work there yet, you do want a teaching job someday, most likely. And so you want to conduct field work in a way that shows you're going to be a good teacher. Okay, and so if you're showing up and you're professional and you're doing everything you're supposed to do, it's very likely that you'll get a good reference out of the school site, whether it's from your mentor teacher or the administrator. So you want to make a really good impression. And that means that if they don't chew gum, the kids can't chew gum, you don't chew gum. Please don't ever take your phone out during observation hours or fieldwork time. It is not appropriate, and it sets a bad example for students who are on that campus. They don't need to see you on your phone. Park in the appropriate places. I know that this is something that we can't have one blanket way of doing it because every school site is different. But here in South Los Angeles, there are a lot of very old school buildings that have very limited parking. And so you want to make sure that you're not parking somewhere that's going to block someone else. Make sure you're parking in a place where you're not going to get a ticket. Make sure you're not parking somewhere that's labeled for someone else. And I suggest you get there early so that you have time to tell the secretary who you are, remind them who you are. If they need copies of your paperwork, you can show them. Make sure you find the class in time to get everything done that you need to without being disruptive or interrupting anybody coming in late. During your field work, I want you to let the teacher know why you're there. Remind them, of course. Introduce yourself again if you need to, if they don't remember you or they don't know why you're there. Let them know that you plan to help out if you do, if that's part of your job while you're in your field work. Let them know what you're comfortable doing. Take some notes. Help the teacher out. You can answer questions, but try to avoid too many personal conversations. Sometimes it's distracting to have a new person in the room and kids get really excited and they want to talk to you. Just try to keep it focused on the lesson. And a lot of times in fieldwork opportunities, we have students ask for a small group to work with throughout the lesson. If that seems appropriate in that class, you can ask the teacher about that. But you want to feel it out based on what you're seeing and talk with the teacher early on so that you know what to expect when you get there, and he or she knows what to assign you to do if you're going to help. After your field work, so the first day you go, afterwards you want to thank that teacher, of course, before you leave. Ask any questions about what you saw. You're going to learn a lot more about this if you take the time to ask, hey, I noticed you did this. Why were you doing that? How does this help? How do you address this problem? Get your form signed. It's much better if you do that every single time you go rather than waiting till the end. It makes people feel a little bit uncomfortable if they have to sign things that attest for hours that happened weeks ago. They might forget and feel like, I'm not sure if that's the hours you were there. So do it each time if you can remember that. That would be helpful. And then arrange for your next visit. Remind them when you're coming. And I would always ask the teacher for their email so that you can stay in touch. This means that you can ask them for advice later on, and often that can turn into a really nice reference for you. Occasionally you might go back to volunteer in that class, and that's the kind of person you want to be able to list on a reference page on your job applications or on your resume. Okay, that's it, and hopefully you have a good idea of what's expected of you as you go out and do your field work. Congratulations on getting this far, and keep up the good work.